Canto 21. Ram's 3-day fast to propitiate the sea. Then Raghava, slayer of the foe, spread darba grass on the seashore, and folding his hands in reverence to the ocean, lay down facing it on the east. He rested his head on his arm, long and lithe as a serpent's body. That arm, which gladdened the hearts of friends, and was long enough to extend protection to the entire sea-girded earth. It was on that mighty arm, resembling a huge iron club, which had gifted away thousands of cows, that the considerate Ram of the mighty arm now pillowed his head, as he laid himself down silently with his senses under control, to propitiate the Lord of the ocean, according to the rules, and with the fixed resolve, I must cross the sea this day or perish. For 3 nights in succession he slept on the ground covered with kusha grass, never relaxing for a moment his vigilance in the observance of his vow. Thus for 3 days he, who was well versed in statecraft, and was in love with Dharma, waited upon the pleasure of the ocean, the consort of the rivers. But the dull-witted lord of the ocean did not present himself before Ram, though Ram had been particular to please him. That angered him. His eyes a blood red, he told Lakshman of the auspicious signs who was by his side. In his arrogance, the ocean does not show himself. The virtues of good men, serenity, forbearance, straightforwardness, and sweet-spokenness, are regarded by the worthless as signs of impotence. The multitude respects only the braggart, who is crafty, pitiless, crooked in his ways, and who deals out punishment right and left. It is impossible to win renown or true fame by peaceful means in this world, just as victory cannot be won on the battlefield. I shall wage a mighty war against the ocean, with its huge mass of conch shell and fish and sea monsters, and dry up its waters with my arrows. Because I have been patient, this ocean, home of the sea monsters, takes me for an incompetent. It is foolishness to be patient with the likes of him. Persuasion will not make the ocean show himself. Bring me my bow, Saumitri, and the arrows that are like virulently poisonous snakes. I shall dry up the ocean, and the monkey shall cross it on foot. Even the imperturbable sea shall be put in a turmoil, because it has provoked my wrath. Though the abode of Varuna does not transgress its norms by overflowing its bounds, I shall, with my arrows, raise a sudden squall and make its billows overflow. I shall churn up the mighty ocean, which teems with powerful asuras. As he said this, Ram, armed with the bow, struck awe in the beholder, his eyes distended in wrath, his anger blazing like the conflagration at the end of the Yuga. Firmly grasping his dread bow in the middle, and making the world tremble with his arrows, he let fly his fierce shafts, as he of the 100 sacrifices launches his thunderbolts. Those mighty arrows, speeding and blazing with power, entered the waters of the sea with their frightened serpents. Thousands of mountainous billows, huge as the Vindhya and the Mandara, and carrying alligators and crocodiles, rose from the surface of the king of streams. The sea was in a mighty welter, with the agitation of its multitudinous billows, its dazed serpents and rakshasas, and its great fish floating. As Raghava, hissing between his teeth, drew his matchless bow with all his force and frightful speed, Saumitri jumped up and caught hold of the bow, crying, "Don't do it! Don't!" Canto 22. Nala builds the bridge. Then the first of the Raghus announced sternly to the Lord of Ocean, I shall dry up your waters right down to the netherworld, O sea. A great cloud of dust shall rise from your surface, when my arrows have burnt up your waters, and all the moisture has been sucked out of you, and all life has shriveled up. By the deluge of arrows discharged from my bow this very day, the monkey shall cross over to the other shore by foot. You have not got the wits to see, or the capacity to gauge my strength and valor, O abode of the Danavas, or foresee the terrible suffering that is coming to you. Saying this, he of the immense strength invoked in an arrow potent as the rod of Brahma, the power of the missile of Brahma, and fitting the arrow in his great bow, drew it with all his force. When Raghava did that, earth and sky seemed suddenly to explode and crash, and the mountains rocked. The world was enveloped in darkness, and the four quarters lost their light. And the waters and the lakes and the rivers were thrown into a turmoil. The sun, the moon, and the stars were thrown together in a row. The sky, obscured by darkness, was but feebly lit by the sun's rays, while hundreds of meteors burnt all over it. And from the upper air came deafening peals of thunder. Instantly, the ocean, convulsed into terrific speed, overflowed its bounds, racing a distance of a yojana beyond the shore, and carrying with it all creatures living in it, serpents and rakshasas. When the consort of the streams that flow east and west transgressed its bounds in its extreme perturbation, Raghava, slayer of the foe, refrained from pursuing it. At that moment rose the god of ocean himself from the sea, like the sun rising over the great mountain Meru. He was accompanied by serpents with blazing mouths. Covered with gold ornaments, he shone like polished lapis lazuli. His eyes were like lotus petals. He was clad in red and wore red flowers, and on his head was a chaplet of all the celestial blooms. He was adorned with splendid ornaments of beaten gold, set with gems that he produces in profusion, like the mountain Himavan with his variegated mineral ores. On his spacious chest lay the pendant of the string of pearls that he wore, the sparkling diamond of the purest water, which was the exact double of the Kaustuba gem. Amidst the tumult of his raging billows, driven by the high winds that brought the clouds, while great alligators floated on the waters with their bellies up, and the snakes and the rakshasas were in a state of terror, the Lord of Ocean presented himself before Raghava, accompanied by his spouses, the great rivers, Ganga, Sindhu, and so on, who had taken for the nonce the forms of beautiful divinities. And the doughty one greeted with folded hands Raghava, who had still his arrow in his hand, and told him, "Earth, air, akasha, water, and fire are established, my friend, in their sempiternal ways, true to their own nature. Likewise, plumbless depth and impassibility are my native qualities. To shrink in depth would mean a violation of the law of my being. I must impress this truth upon you. I shall never agree, O Prince, either from fear, or from hopes of gain, or from greed, to freeze into immobility my waters, that are alive with the tumult of fish, great and small. But I shall do all that I can, O Ram. I shall see to it that the crocodiles and others do not attack anybody so long as the army passes through, and also that the monkeys shall have firm ground under their feet as they cross over. This Nala here, my friend, is the son of Vishvakarma, who conferred a boon on him. The fortunate one is as capable as his father. Let the ape, who is gifted with energy and zest, lay a dam on my waters. I shall support it. He can do all that his father can." Having said this, the ocean vanished.